She lived in a community. She had just changed jobs. She sewed for a living and sewed for like Sanger Harris and wasn't going to get paid for about another 3 or 4 weeks. Had her car break down, had used some unexpected money. And of course, we all find this out after the fact, but she tells a story when she getting ready to go to work, looked in her refrigerator and had 1 apple and knew that she wasn't getting paid for a couple of days, was wondering how she was going to eat. Says that she drives out of the community, and it was a community that was undergoing a lot of construction. And she got in her car and she prayed and said, Lord, I know you will provide for me. I have no doubt that you will provide for me. You always have in the past, and I trust and I take solace in knowing that you will always take care of me. She says she gets in her car, backs out of her drive, drives down the street, turns, and right in the middle of the road is a black lunch pail. She gets out, she grabs it. She noticed that there's some construction crews working around in that area. She goes up to each one of them and said, did anybody here lose a lunch pail? No. She goes to the next one. Anyone here lose a lunch pail? No. The third one, she goes to all of them in their community. They're working. No one has lost this lunch pail. There's no name, no identifying mark on it whatsoever. So she opens the lunch pail to see if there was something inside. She said it had 3 or 4 sandwiches. I can't remember how many. Had chips, it had apple, it had banana, it had everything that would sustain her for probably 2 or 3 days. She looked on the inside of it, couldn't find anything, and that's when she heard the voice of God saying, I will provide for you. She still has that in her possessions. My aunt has that. That happened in 1974. She still has that black lunch pail. But then there's a time when you always wonder, I always thought my grandmother had a hotline to God. I was in college. A good friend of mine, I was in his wedding. Wonderful young man, wanted to go to medical school too. And we had physics class together on Thursday. He would come in for our lab, but he was always a little bit late because he worked for his dad as a night clerk in his motel. Well, I noticed that he wasn't in class that morning. So I go to a friend's apartment, and we're sitting there talking, and I said, hey, his nickname was Killer. Have you seen Killer? And he says, you haven't heard. And I said, haven't heard what? He said he drowned today. He said he was cleaning out the swimming pool. He put the pump in. There was a short. It electrocuted him. He fell in the pool and drowned. I was asked to be a pallbearer at his funeral 6 weeks after he got married. I didn't have a suit, I didn't have a tie, I didn't have slacks, I didn't have a jacket, I didn't have anything. The funeral was in 3 days. I was asking friends to borrow who was my size. That evening in my dorm room, I get a phone call from my grandmother. She says, Cary, I went and got your brother today, and we went to the mall, and I bought you a suit. A brown suit, 3-piece suit with a vest, tie, shirt, shoes, socks, and I mailed it to you. I got it the next day. It fit me like she had me measured. And all she had was that. I had the suit, the tie, everything for my friend's funeral, unfortunately. And I knew that that had to be from God, because no other way could I have known, she have known, I hadn't called her anything. If it hadn't been for my grandmother, I'm sure that I would be walking down that broader path through that wider gate. So grandparents, you have a great influence on your grandchildren. Please continue to lead them so that they will continue in the path they were brought up.